Hello and welcome to another edition of the Big UC Update. I'm Rob Scott, and today we're diving deep into one of the most critical conversations in enterprise technology right now, and that's AI governance and digital communications compliance. Now, of course, we're living through this unprecedented time where AI tools like Microsoft Copilot and Zoom AI Companion are transforming how we work, but they're also creating entirely new compliance challenges that CIOs and IT leaders are scrambling to address. So how do you enable AI innovation without throttling it? How do you govern telephone calls, meetings, and chats and AI transcripts across multiple platforms? I mean, these are some of the questions keeping enterprise leaders up at night. So today I'm thrilled to welcome Dan Nadir, who's a Chief Product Officer at Theta Lake, a company that's been making waves in the digital communications governance space. And in 2025, they launched their own AI governance and inspection suite, and they're now positioned as a visionary in Gartner's Magic Quadrant for digital communications governance and archiving. And they're tackling some of the most complex compliance challenges in unified communications and collaboration. So whether you're an IT professional wrestling with multi-vendor UC environments, a compliance officer concerned about AI risks, or simply curious about the future of digital communications oversight, this conversation is for you. So let's dive in. Welcome, Dan. How's it going?
Great, thanks.
Yeah, good to see you again, and really excited to talk to you today. So, Dan, let's just start with you personally for a moment. Can you share a little bit of your journeys becoming Chief Product Officer at Theta Lake? You know, kind of what drew you to the intersection of kind of AI and compliance ultimately?
Sure. For my professional career, I've almost always been in the SaaS world, but my degree is actually in cognitive science. So back in the day, it was sort of half computer science and half psychology, right? People trying to figure out how to do all of this AI. And so AI for me has always been a bit in the background, but out of school, didn't really want to do research. And so I sort of jumped into the workforce. And, like I said, most of my career has been with kind of early stage companies who are trying to move things into the cloud. So I worked for an early stage company that was doing email security in the cloud. They ended up getting acquired by Microsoft. And then I worked at another company that did web security, but in the cloud. They also got acquired. And so I've done sort of various jobs like this. I did a brief stint at Norton, working for the consumer business, selling antivirus. I was at the time like sick of working with large enterprises. And I thought, I want to do something consumer. And that was a shock, right? It was I think a $2 billion business with loads and loads of customers. And so more people than I could ever talk to. But from there, I met the founders of a company which was called Nextgate. And their insight was that people were moving to these cloud-based like social media platforms. And a lot of financial services were using those, but those platforms are, they're consumer, right? So they don't have any enterprise features. They don't have any kind of compliance or security. And so the idea was, hey, we can build compliance and security on top of those platforms. And that's what we ended up doing. And so from there, sort of the next insight was, hey, this exact same thing is going to happen, but for the UC world, right? As all these companies try to move all of their kind of clunky on-prem tools into the cloud, they're going to need the same kind of security and compliance. And so I joined Theta Lake in March of 2020, right as the world shut down. At the time, the technology was all about video, right? Because people were trying to do meetings like this. They were just starting to roll out Zoom. And so we had a really, really good technology for video. And of course, we all know what happened in 2020 and 2021. Everyone started doing video meetings. So that's really how we made our name. The irony is most of our big customers kind of use video, but they're mostly using us for all of the normal UC and comms platforms, even email, right? So yeah, it's been a long fun ride, but I love technology that's in the cloud, right? The way you can deliver these things is amazing, and it's one of those things where I'll never go back.
Great. Well, As a chief product officer in the compliance space, what aspects specifically of product development are you most passionate about, given all this, evolution and AI in the enterprise kind of communication space right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, I love seeing what companies are trying to do with AI, right? Lots of them have big initiatives. I like helping to deliver technology solutions that enable them to do all the things that they want to do. Firms mostly are nervous. They don't really understand what could happen with AI. They're not really sure how they can make all these tools compliant. They don't really know what to do. But they know they can't ignore AI. I remember I was at a trade show, I think it was last year or the year before, and one of our customers was saying like, hey, this is like with these summaries that we're doing, we're saving every single, I think it was advisor or agent, we're saving them 20 minutes every single call. This is the biggest productivity boost we will have all year. And so there's a lot of pressure to roll this out, but we need to do it in a way that's compliant. And so it's those kinds of stories that get me super fired up to work with them and help them to be able to deliver what they want to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, endless possibilities with AI, which means endless amounts of things to figure out, I would imagine, from a product standpoint. But walk us through a typical day for you right now at Theta Lake. With AI governance being such a hot topic, I imagine your product roadmap is pretty dynamic. Just talk us through, what do you get involved in most weeks?
Yeah, I mean, for better or for worse, I'm pretty much in meetings all day. We get out to see customers a bit more. It's always nice to sort of go and see customers where they are and meet people face to face, right? We've had many years of kind of not doing that. But probably half of my meetings are internal, either talking to the other PMs or to the engineering team or to sales. Half of my day is talking with partners who are working with us either on the platform side or on the delivery side. And companies who are either customers and we're talking to them about roadmap, or customers who are looking to evaluate us. And this for AI, this is all really, really new to them. All right, as I said before, lots of them don't really understand what they need to do. They've been doing compliance for a million years, right? They have those processes. They know what they need to do. But for AI, it's new. And so we can work with them kind of as a trusted advisor. We can help them understand what other companies are doing. I think for us, we try to build kind of a true partnership, right? I'm proud of the fact that, no one is going to get like a cheesy sales pitch, from us. I think we understand that what we sell has to work, and we want to stand behind our products, and we want them to know the good, the bad, and the ugly about what we do. So it usually is it's a good working partnership. They tell us really what they need. We tell them what it is that we can deliver. And with respect to the roadmap, usually there are things that they either already do or they'd love to be able to do, or they have some good ideas, and so those things go on the roadmap. And so for that reason, yeah, the roadmap is dynamic. We have a set kind of strategy for what we want to deliver, maybe a year or two out. But there are lots of little things that we will add or delete as necessary. And I think one of the really, really things that helps us is that the engineering team is very senior. They can deliver stuff very, very quickly. We do releases about every 6 to 8 weeks. So if we miss something in a release, it's not like, when I was back at Symantec, if we missed a release, it was a year before you were going to get it again, right, in the consumer business. And here, if we miss a release, it might be a month later, it might be a month or two later. And so we're able to deliver the kinds of things that we need to on a pretty rapid basis. So, I think it enables us to do a lot of things and not have a giant backlog of feature requests that have been sitting there for years.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what's the one thing about building products in the compliance space that might surprise people outside of the industry?
Yeah, I mean, I think part of it is understanding that there are very specific ways that people have been doing this for 20 years, right? It doesn't mean they're good. It just means that's what they are used to. And so I think they don't understand the detail that goes into building a compliance program. They don't understand the pressure that these teams are under. We've all seen the billions of dollars in fines that companies are facing because they fail to retain content or they fail to properly supervise it, right? Countries and organizations are very, very serious about making sure that these companies aren't off doing things that they're not supposed to do, right? So that puts a lot of pressure. I think the other one that's really interesting is with AI. In our world, if you're sort of talking to Perplexity or you're talking to ChatGPT or something, it doesn't really matter if you ask, how many goals did Everton Football Club score last year, right? Or, something like that. You'll get the answer like AI could be wrong, like take care. And people kind of go, oh, yeah, that's fine. But in the compliance world, you can't be that wrong, right? We don't do this, but for tools that are doing things like, recommending people for credit cards, right? Or other kinds of credit. There are a lot of issues with bias, how these AI systems are trained, right? So again, we don't do that. In our world, we're basically trying to sift through millions and millions of messages and point out the ones that are more problematic than others. But you really have to be right. If you're not good at it and you're missing things that should be flagged, or you're flagging, 90% of the things that you flag are nonsense and not problematic, that doesn't help anyone. And it just makes the compliance team's job a lot harder. So we really, really need to be right. And it's not enough to just have the little disclaimer like, sorry, we might be wrong. That's another reason why people in the outside world don't probably know the term lexicon, right? But in compliance, everybody knows lexicon. It's keywords and phrases because they're trying to add every single word and phrase that they could possibly think of because they don't want to miss anything that could be problematic, right? And so they've over time built up thousands and thousands of these things. They're highly problematic, right? They generate a load of false positives. But we had one early customer who started with us and they wanted to, import all their lexicons. And certainly they can do that. But they said 90% of these, 92% of these things are probably going to be false positives, right? We're going to have to just skip over them. But we feel confident that we're not going to miss any. Right. And so our job at Theta Lake is okay, we can support that, but we also want to enable you to trust us with some more AI tools that can do a better job and actually be more effective, not have 90% false positive rate, and allow you to do a lot more with less. Right. And so that's, I think, one of the things that we're really good at.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you've been recognized as a visionary in Gartner's Magic Quadrant for DCGA. Talk us through that, from a product perspective. What does that actually mean and how does that reflect on your kind of product philosophy?
Yeah, I think that, I'm really, really proud of the fact that we scored furthest in vision, across the 14 vendors that they evaluated. It shows that we're building technology that solves real problems. We're not just building science experiments or neat looking user interfaces that don't really have anything behind them. It's really hard to make something look easy, right? And so a lot of the things that we do they're easy. They're easy. We're easy to deploy. We're easy to enable. We're easy to do lots of different things, but that doesn't mean that there's not a lot of complexity in the background. And I think that, the Gartner surveys and everything that they did really, really was a deep dive into the technology that we have. And so we did well last year too, but I think we managed to do even better this year. And that's down to, the amazing engineering team that we have, their ability to deliver lots and lots of new things, differentiated things that, we continue to build on. So, Gartner is great. I think it's a big deal. And again, we're really honored to be kind of that most visionary in the quadrant. But I think if you look on our website, we have 60 awards listed. So we've done a lot more. We were just named to Fortune's Cyber 60 list. We win lots of UC awards. And so, yeah, it's really, it's nice and sort of, exciting to work at a company that does get recognized for the good technology that we have, because everybody here works really hard, and we're kind of we have a single-minded focus to help make our customers successful.
Dan, you've recently been certified for ISO for AI. Talk us through that. Well, why is that important to have nowadays?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really proud of this. The ISO 42001 is all about making sure that companies like us can validate the transparency and the trust in their AI capabilities, right? So you can't go 5 minutes today without hearing a vendor talk about AI, right? You throw a rock and you'll hit someone who's talking about how they have AI in their products. But this certification is not easy to do. Like, our team spent a very long time documenting processes, explaining what we do, showing how our various models work, talking about the explainability that we have. And so having this certification helps companies to understand that we take that side of things very seriously. And so that's the thing. I would encourage everybody to make sure they're asking their vendor, like, hey, do you have ISO 42001 certification? Because it's so easy these days to just go, we have AI. What does that actually mean? And so again, for us, it's a big feather in our cap to have achieved this. And again, I'm really proud that we were able to get that certification.
Yeah, and it's great to be recognised, but I think in the compliance game, it's important to be recognised as and get that rubber stamp of trust. It's a big deal. Speaking of partnerships, you've got some huge partnerships with Microsoft and Zoom, Cisco, RingCentral, all the key players in the space. How do they influence your roadmap, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes both ways. We influence their roadmap, and they influence our roadmap. So I've got a guy on my team who every single day he's looking at release notes, and he's trying to figure out, did Microsoft release something new? Did Zoom? Did RingCentral? Did Cisco WebEx deliver something new? Does that create communications? Is that something we have to support? But on the other hand, lots of them come to us when they're rolling out products because they get feedback from our mutual customers that, like, hey, we can't roll this out unless we have some compliance behind it, right? So whiteboards are a really great example of that. When whiteboards first started to come out, there weren't really good tools to be able to retain and supervise that. And so we've actually worked really closely with a number of vendors to help them design how the APIs should deliver that content. And then we were able to take that and talk to other companies to deliver similar things. So quite often, we're working hand in hand with them. There's another example with Microsoft, where they had a big customers, maybe 250,000 users, who couldn't really roll out Teams because they wanted to do real-time notifications in Teams chat, either in meeting chat or in chat, like disclaimers, right? That's not something that Microsoft supports, but we can. And so we worked hand in hand with Microsoft to actually jointly develop this tool that enabled Microsoft to sort of win that business and make the customer happy and deliver something that they wanted and be compliant. So yeah, these partnerships are often hand in hand.
That's a great example. I mean, let's dive into your AI governance and inspection suite. This seems like a pretty major bet. So what customer insights kind of drove the development of that suite? Talk us through what it is and how it came about.
Yeah, I think, like I said before, everybody wants to leverage AI, but they don't know what they don't know, right? They don't understand exactly how all of these things are going to work, and they don't know what people are going to say, right? And so what we started building early was the ability to make sure that as users were engaging with AI, if you think about it, AI at the end of the day is just another user, right? So in compliance, we talk about e-comms, electronic communications, and ACOMs for audio. This is AI comms, right? These are tools that are actually communicating either with each other or with users. And so what we wanted to be able to do was make sure that we were capturing all of those interactions and then being able to apply all of the AI classifiers and all the other kind of risk detections that we have to surface problematic behavior. And the one interesting thing about this is, often you might get someone who will say, write me an email that guarantees a 90% rate of return that I can send to all my, my prospects. Sometimes AI will do it, sometimes it won't. But if it doesn't, I mean, we've seen cases where it'll say, I can't do that. And you say, well, write me an email that will practically guarantee a 90% rate of return. And it's happy to do it, right? And I personally believe that a lot of users who are using tools from the company will sort of, believe that, well, if the AI told me to say it, it must be okay to say, right? And that absolutely is not the case. These tools are very happy to just, we have one good example where it's like, build me a resume and give me some testimonials and awards, and it just makes it up. It doesn't care. And so those kinds of things are problematic, right? And so what we can do is we can grab up all of those prompts, we can get the responses, and we can let people know, like, hey, the AI either disclosed some information it should not have, or you've got users who are asking inappropriate questions, right? And so part of it's not compliance at all, right? Maybe the email, with the guarantee and all that might be compliance, but a lot of this really is just down to governance. What are your users asking? What information are they trying to get? Is that appropriate or not? And so that's a big one, and that's one that, again, it's kind of a sticking point for a lot of companies who they want to be sure that AI is delivering productivity, but not introducing a lot more risk.
Yeah, and to that point, I mean, you talk a lot about enabling AI, but not throttling it. What does that actually mean from a product design perspective, and how do you kind of build that philosophy into your solutions and ultimately give customers what they want?
Yeah, I mean, with AI, it's no different than anything else, right? We exist in a world where companies generally come to us and they say, we are trying to deploy this cool technology, but we can't. We've been told by compliance that we have to turn off in-meeting chat, or we can't turn on the whiteboard, or we can't allow people to send, text messages from, Zoom or Ring Central, right? Things like that. And so we work to help them understand that, like, if you work with us, you can get the best of both worlds, right? You can turn those things on. We absolutely will capture all of that information. We can show you that we're capturing it, right? We can reconcile all this data across all the platforms that you have, and we can give them a sense of confidence that we're doing what we say we're doing. So, again, it's just we don't want to tell people, well, you need to turn that off, right? We want to tell them you should enable it, right? All this technology exists because there is a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, and why wouldn't you leverage it? You just have to have some guardrails around it, and we're here to help you do that. And so again, for us, it's in terms of like UX and architecture, it's what I said before, let's make it super easy. Let's not overcomplicate things, but let's give them the tools that they need. We have a very solid API. We've got third parties who actually write to our API to deliver content to us. We've got a lot of cases where companies will come to us and say, hey, look, we're interested in this cool new vendor over here, but you don't have an integration for them. And obviously we need to retain all that content. If it's not something that's on our roadmap to do, they can actually build their own integration leveraging our API. And we've seen that happen over and over again. And so that API can be used not just for that, but it can be used by our customers to kind of turn on all sorts of either automated processes like user management, or doing reconciliation, or pulling data into their observability tools that they already have. So that from a product perspective, the API is like a key part of what we do. The goal is someday that anything you do in the UI, you can do via the API. And I would say most of our customers, certainly our enterprise customers, are leveraging that quite a bit, because it enables them to sort of pull Theta Lake, the platform and the products, closer into what they're doing operationally, and sort of give them a sense of confidence that we are doing what we say we're doing.
Yeah, and I'm certainly hearing a lot more recently about, Frankenstacks, and the big challenge is really just pooling all this data together, isn't it? Kind of bring it together in one place to kind of make sense of it with platforms, like yourself. So, I mean, just in terms of what's hot, I mean, with your customers right now, what kind of product feedback are you getting right now that you're hearing that's kind of, mostly in demand, would you say?
Yeah, I mean, obviously AI, right? I mean, everyone wants to know what our strategy is, both for how we will use AI in the product to make the product better and save them time and provide more insights, as well as kind of, we're deploying AI. We need you to help us kind of sort this and make sure that everything's on the up and up. But I think one of the things that I've seen pretty consistently is we'll have a customer who joins us because they have a single pain point, right? They're trying to deploy Zoom, they're trying to deploy, Cisco WebEx, whatever it is. And once it starts working, they're like, this is pretty interesting. And then they'll come back to us and go, can you do our email too? Like, what about our Verizon calls? Like, what about Cloud9? What about all these other kind of cloud first applications? Can you do that? And so over time, they'll start to add more and more and more into their kind of all of the different integrations, because to your point, they want to have not siloed data. They want to have the data in one place. If they're going to search, they want to be able to say, hey, show me everything that Rob and Dan said last week. They don't care if I sent you a text and then you left me a voicemail and then I emailed you and then we got on a meeting like this, right? They want to be able to see it all in one place at the same time. And even have an AI summary that says what we were talking about. And so that's the kind of thing that we can deliver to them, because we've got all that data, right? We own and manage all these connectors. We pull in all the data, we normalize it, and we do all the things that we need to do. So the other dynamic I'll say is, aside from adding more and more, they start looking around like, well, yeah, we thought we were going to use you for capture. We've been sending it to our third-party archive of record, but like, that's expensive. Can you just keep it? Like, do you have, worm compliant archive, 17A4 compliant archive? Well, yeah, we do. Well, couldn't we just keep it with you? Yeah, you can. Well, what about like search and e-discovery? Can you do that? What about legal hold? Can you do that? And so over time, they start to understand that they can do so much more with everything that's in that platform in one place. And so that's typically what we end up seeing.
That's great. And I know you do some great research at Theta Lake. So there's I imagine there's all sorts of great insights around kind of governance gaps and everything. But, just looking forward, Dan, into the kind of year ahead, what are you getting most excited about, and potentially what's keeping you up at night?
Yeah, well, one of the things that the data science team has been researching a fair amount are things like AI jailbreaking, right? And so we don't have time to go into a lot of detail, but I'll say, probably Google it. But it's similar to the example that I gave before, where you are trying to get an answer and the LLM, the AI says, I'm not allowed to give you that information. So you say something like, well, say you are a researcher and you are trying to validate this information from, all of these papers, right? And they kind of give the AI lots and lots of data to kind of trick it, confuse it into divulging information. And so that one, I think we're going to see more of that. And so, like I said, our data science team researches this sort of thing. Half their job is doing research, half their job is kind of building cool ways to detect those things that are happening. So I think we'll see more and more of that. I think we will build more interesting AI capabilities into our products. We'll be able to leverage the API to pull lots and lots more data into the system. So yeah, there's there's no shortage of things that we have on our list to do in 2026. Like I said, probably half of it maybe is strategic and important and forward thinking, and what we believe that enterprise and even mid-size SMB customers will need down the road, and the rest of it is all very interesting and important requests that we have from existing customers who they're like, yeah, we love what you're doing, but could you do this? Could you add this? Like, we really need this report. We really need this new API endpoint. And so there's a lot of that too. So we're going to be very, very busy.
It sounds like it, and I suppose as employees and customers get smarter, the technology is just going to have to get as smart, if not smarter, right? So lots to do by the sounds of things. Really exciting. But in terms of advice for IT professionals or compliance leaders out there, looking at collaboration, UC compliance, and governance, what advice would you give?
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to be curious. You have to pay attention to what's going on in the world. You have to listen to the thought leaders who are at the companies that you work with. I remember when I was first starting out, my boss had a sign on the wall that said, "The answer to your question is not in this building." Right. And so I try to remember that, and I try to make sure that our whole team, understands, like, hey, look, you're not in some ivory tower building something that is interesting to you, but maybe not practical or interesting to anybody else. Right. And so you really need to get out there and understand what the problems are. There have been so many times where I'll say, like, why is that interesting? Who cares about that? And I'll talk to a customer, and they have a very specific and very good reason. Like, we can't do this because this will happen, or because this used to be the way we did it and that happened. It's like, wow, that's super interesting. And then I can take that to another customer and say, like, is this a problem that you've ever seen? And you start to see patterns, but you don't see those patterns, and you don't get that information, and you don't sort of, you're not able to build up those insights unless you are actually talking to customers. And I think I have found that every customer is eager to talk to product management, right? They want to be on your side. They want to explain what they're doing. They want you to help them. And so they're happy to either answer a question like, hey, if we did this thing, would you be interested in using that? Or they want to tell you, like, well, what would really help me is if you built this other thing. And so, I would say that, my advice is, yeah, you can't just think that all of the good ideas are in your own head, because they are not. Maybe they are, but you're very, 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 very rare if that is true, right? And so the answers really are with the customers that you have, with the customers that you don't have, that either bought something different, or they're still early in their engagement and they've got some very real problems that they need solutions for.
Yeah, that's great advice. Hey, Dan, this has been absolutely fascinating. Thank you so much for taking time to share these insights with us today. It's clear that Theta Lake is at that forefront of solving some really complex challenges that enterprise organizations are grappling with right now. So for our viewers, the key takeaway here is that AI governance doesn't have to be a choice between innovation and compliance. It's about building the right framework to enable both. So Dan and his team at Theta Lake are proving that you can embrace AI tools like Copilot and Zoom AI Companion whilst maintaining the oversight and control that regulated industries demand. So if you're dealing with AI governance challenges in your organization, I'd encourage you to check out Theta Lake's AI Governance and Inspection Suite. And you can learn more at thetalake.com. And I'm sure Dan and his team would be happy to discuss how their solutions might fit your specific needs. So that's a wrap on this edition of the Big UC Update. For more insights on unified communications, collaboration, technology, and the latest industry developments, make sure you're following UC Today across all our channels. We've got more great content coming your way, including deep dives on AI in the workplace, more on security trends, and the future of hybrid work. So thanks again, Dan. Very much appreciated and great to see you.
Yeah, thanks, Rob. It's been a pleasure.
And I'm Rob Scott from UC Today. Thanks for watching.